Hi everyone, Vicky Verley here, Rock and Roll Prophetess. We've got another chart here to look at. This is going to be a new moon at 26 degrees of Taurus. You know, I did a little adjusting on this. I wonder if I can get it a little bigger for you guys. Make sure we can see it well. I'll come over this way a tiny bit. Because this is the second time in recent history the time given was not quite right. According to the ephemeris, it was at 12:13 a.m. and that didn't work. So I kept doing the progressing. It was off by a couple minutes here. So I got it to 26:56, and that's Eastern Time, 12:14 a.m. on the 18th. I'm sure for a lot of people it's going to be on the 17th. It's another one of those new moons. It's going to fall on different days depending on your time zone. But I found, let's see, so I found that I had to progress it about 11 minutes for it to line up right. I don't know if that's true. I didn't try running other charts, but that's what I found. This one I did go ahead and correct it according to the software. So 12:14 a.m. New York. I do New York for the Eastern Time chart. Okay, well, the big thing is, you know, it's at these high degrees again. So we've been having a lot of these. So again, it could be like, you know, finishing up or everything. This is the day to start your garden. You know, that's the day I'm planning on starting my garden. Another thing that's happening, because the new moon in Taurus is the new moon is the new beginning of the, you know, the growing season up north. I guess I forgot about down under people. I don't mean to do that. I just speak from my perspective. But you know, it's a new beginning anyway. It's a new moon, a new beginning. New moon in Taurus is, you know, planting the earth. These kind of Taurian things. It would be a good day, I suppose, to start a creative project. It could be a Taurus, or get money investors, because Taurus is the second house in the natal, the flat chart. I glanced down at my ephemeris thing again. It's also Victoria Day. I remember, you know, Victoria, because my real name is Victoria. So there's some, it's not, of course, not after me, but I believe it's Queen Victoria. But the other thing I want to note is Mercury goes retrograde later that day at 10:50 p.m. according to this ephemeris. So lots going on. Mercury is slowed to a halt. You can see over here, it's, you know, barely moving, 004. And it's getting ready to turn retrograde later that day. Where is that Mercury? Oh, down here in Gemini. You know, the other thing they have this as the new moon opposing Saturn. It's a pretty wide orb there. It's, you know, like a 5-6 degree orb. So I don't know if I would really count it right at that point. But certainly the moon is going to oppose Saturn earlier, prior to that, a little prior to that, or excuse me, a little after that, and the sun will in a few days. So this is something that will be coming up as this stuff moves into low Gemini. But Mars is opposing Saturn, for sure. That's in orb. 4 degrees of Gemini oppose Saturn at 2 degrees of Sagittarius. So that's you know, that's a very male energy. Mars is it's the god of war. It's the male energy. Saturn is, you know, the father of the gods and the father in your chart and all that stuff. And it's with Mars. Mercury's in there too, but I would say it's kind of out of orb. But there could definitely be confrontation here. You know, with the Mars in Gemini, you need to watch what you say, or, you know, phrase your, think before you speak. That would be my advice for this thing, to kind of, because with Mars, it's like words can hurt people. But it could be like you'd say something, it might be taken the wrong way, or you know, you could be irritated and say something that you didn't really mean. You know, it could get heated, or Mars, you know, it could get heated or out of control, and you know, oppose Saturn. Saturn, you know, again is, you know, the old man, the structure and all that. But it can also, when Saturn's involved, things can be long-lasting. So you could say something or do something, even if like a faux pas or something, possibly. But to me, it's more about like on the aggressive side with Mars, you know, being kind of aggressive or mean, or friends. Okay, here, this is a good example. I was watching a video this morning, and I had to just turn it off. This woman was very knowledgeable. It was some ancient alien stuff, which I love, all that stuff, and you know, but anyways, she was very knowledgeable, and she had a lot of knowledge and a lot of information, but the way she came off with it was very argumentative and I'm right, and I know everything. And it just, I just tuned it out. And, Gemini is also kind of youthful, too. And that could be like with kids, too. If those of you that have kids. And, we can remember ourselves, if your parents are like coming down on you and lecturing you, Saturn, right? Reading you the riot act, giving you a lecture all the time. You just tune it out. And, but for me, it's YouTube. I can just shut it off. Even though I've thought that there may have been some very valuable information and knowledge that I could have gleaned from her, her presentation and the aggressive nature of it, that I'm right, this is what it is, that always turns me off. And that's Mars and Gemini, speaking from, that could be, and with Saturn too, that's religion and stuff, it could be preachy, but the preachy, I don't want to be preached to. Nobody wants to be preached to, okay? And it goes beyond the boundaries of a religion. And this is not a slam on religion in any way. Again, this had nothing to do with religion. And so you don't want to be preached to, and you don't want to be the preacher. You don't want to be talking to people, or again, it's this my way is the only way, or being aggressive about your opinions. What is actually an opinion or a theory of yours, something that's really in Gemini, a mental thing, and declaring that it is the one and only, the only right way, the gospel truth, right? And again, this is not about religion, what I'm talking about. It's in all walks of life, all forms of communication. So there's that. You know what, when I opened this chart, when I ran the chart, there's also a grand trine. There's Libra, the nodes here, Libra, Aries, and then there's a grand trine in air, which includes Mars and Mercury, North Node, and Ceres over here. And then it's got I think that's the kite officially or something, but this is this pyramid thing that I see. There's that trine, and then there's this other offshoot where Venus is squaring the node. To me, everything points up to that North Node in Libra, which again is the congeniality factor. Libras are the last people that are going to be harsh or preach to you normally. They're very much considerate of other people's feelings. That's the number one thing I always think of Libra, is, go out of their way to be kind and considerate and well-mannered. You don't have to Mars be aggressive trying to get your point across or prove that you're right, So that, and then, that Libras always want to achieve balance. So things being in balance, not I'm right and you're wrong, Saturn opposed Mars. And these are very much mental capacity and, these philosophy. That's part of the ninth house, which Sag is the ruler of. So it's the philosophy. And, Saturn is it's set in stone, right? And that does apply to religion, but again, it applies to so many things in life. People have strong opinions about many things, not just religion. And Libras will try to see both sides and be fair. But anyways, it's going to square this. It's like a pyramid. You got the North Node, Venus, and then you've got, because that makes it sort of 3D. You've got the Grand Trine in air, and there's this offshoot over here. It kind of makes it a sort of 3D, like a 3D pyramid. That's what I really saw there, like a 3D pyramid. And these look like spectrums of light going through them. The Saturn opposed all this stuff, and then the other part of it is Lilith opposing Chiron and Vesta. Those look to me like spectrums. Like, this looks almost, again, I think I said this on another chart a while back, but it's like that Pink Floyd album cover, right? It's got the prism, rather, not a pyramid, but the prism, and then the beams of light shining through it. So there's that. All right, so we talked at length about this beam of light, and I don't really see it as being a light, really. But then we've got also Lilith is opposing Chiron and Vesta. I always stick up for Lilith, and I don't like to see Lilith as the angry woman. But in this case, I'm really getting that vibe, big time, with the Chiron being involved there. That could be the angry woman. Because who's the angry woman anyway? Or the angry whoever. That's the person who's been hurt. You know, I hate all men. My husband was a jerk, so I'm a man hater now, or whatever, you know. So that's the person who's been wounded. Babies don't come in hating anybody, right? Just by our wounds, we do that. But we can also like transmute it. It doesn't have to be played out like that. We don't have to hang on to it. I don't know, but that's what I'm really getting like this. So, um, lashing out. I'm feeling like lashing out. I'm feeling like angry, crying. You know. For those of you that are in relationships, you know, it could be like we're going to pull an all-nighter here. And not in a good way. Not that kind of all-nighter. We're going to pull an all-nighter of a crying, fighting, you know. That kind of drama energy could really be erupting here. And the key, the high point of the chart, and even though I know it's Eastern time, it doesn't apply to everybody. But the high point, the pinnacle of this pyramid is that Libra North Node again. So back to grace. I want to use the word grace. You know, try to be graceful. Try to handle things with grace. I feel like that's the way out of it. Saturn opposed Mars is some pretty, you know, confrontational stuff. These are the men going to battle here. You know, these are the warriors with the, you know, with the, I'm seeing like, you know, the swords and the helmets and the whole bit, you know. And Saturn is the rules and the ways of things. I mean, I guess this could be a good aspect to for change, you know, what we've been going through, you know, with this Pluto, Uranus, everything, and because Pluto's in Capricorn, it's how it ties into Saturn. Those of you not that familiar with astrology. But, you know, it's the downfall of the old ways, or the changing of the guards. But how do, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I guess there's a place for Mars. There is a place for Mars energy. I don't guess it. There totally is. Mars energy is needed. You know, Mars is ruled Aries. That's like the trailblazers. It's needed. And sometimes we do have to be aggressive. And there has been a lot of stuff going on and again in the news here in America. And I know there's some riots in Baltimore, and there's some different things going on. So there could, I mean, some of this stuff could be erupting. And there does, sometimes you do have to make some noise and rattle some cages, you know, to get change made. You can't always be peaceful, I suppose. But this, though, being more about, to me, it's more about this, the Gemini energy. And that's not really, I don't think of Gemini as the collective so much. You know, that's more third house. That's more you, your siblings, your friends, your neighborhood. So this is more, and again, I talked about the personal planets in the last time. You know, this is more in their personal environment, your personal planet, or these, I forget what you call these houses too. There's words for that, but it's that. So I'm not, it could be more global, but it feels to me more like spats with loved ones. You hurt me. You got to stop carrying, we all have to stop carrying around these old wounds and these old hurts. I think I've brought this up before too, but there was a great book. I think it's Mary Summer Rain, No Eyes, but it may have been one of Lynn Andrews' early books, one of her teachers. It's a Native American woman with a young apprentice, and every time she's bitching about her problems and bitching about how her life is, she's the victim and how bad her life is, the woman gives her, the elder gives her a rock to put in her bag and carry, and then she's carrying this big bag of rocks around. And finally the teacher says, you know, why don't you, do you really want to carry around that big bag of rocks? And she just, no, and they dump the rocks, you know. So these things that, you know, anyone's carrying around, it's just it's weighing you down. You know, it's really it can weigh you down. And it can impede your growth, and it can impede you from doing what you really came here to do. You know. This is, in this case, the node is Libra, but your node is what you really came here to do. I wanted to get in, the other part of it is to the square to Venus. And Venus in Cancer. That too, you know, Cancer is ruled by the moon. And the moon child, I'm trying to bring back I'm bringing back moon child, I'm trying to. I just like that better, but anyways. And their mood changes every couple days as the moon changes. The moon stays in a sign a couple of days, 2.5 days or something like that. And every time that moon changes sign, the Cancer mood will change. And they're maternal and loving and family-oriented. They have many great qualities, but they can be crabby. They can be cranky and bitchy, kind of, at times, you know. And that kind of stuff's going on here, too. Because the node is squaring in Venus. It's part of that pyramid thing that I was seeing here. So, you know, and then Venus, personal planet, Venus, who do you love? You know, your people you love. Venus in Cancer could be more family-oriented, not necessarily your lover. It could be your mother with Cancer. The moon is the mother. It could be, it may relate more to the women in your family or the women in your life with Venus in Cancer. That's a distinct possibility. And then squaring the Libra, which is also very feminine, the feminine expression of Venus, and its ruler also. Venus rules of Libra, so there's a tie-in here. There's all kinds of tie-ins going on here besides the squaring, and it's part of the pyramid thing. So you know that's going on, and it could be emotions could be running high, and people could be crabby and bitchy and easily get I'm feeling like my dander's up, or could easily get into, and here's another thing. Mercury is the mind and logic, right? And Mercury's in Gemini, it's ruler, and Mars is in Gemini, it's all Mercury. It's all, Gemini is Mercury, okay? There's no logical solution to an emotional issue. That's another big thing. You're going to feel how you're going to feel. And no, you can't, it can't be logically deduced. You can't, and it's insulting, frankly, if you try to, argue somebody out of their feelings. It's undoable. And it's fruitless, it's futile. Because, yeah, maybe logically it doesn't seem right, but the emotions are a whole nother ballgame here. You gotta let people feel what they're going to feel and validate their feelings, and not have to be right. There's no right or wrong when emotions are concerned. Just like with the deaths, Oh, and by the way, thank you everybody who commented on that chart. I'm not going to bring it up anymore, but last time who did comment, I really appreciate it, and all your condolences. But with death, there's no right or wrong way to grieve. I see this time and time again, with families. And oh, well, she didn't even cry, or, blah, 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 judging somebody on the way they grieve. And there's no right or wrong way to grieve, and there's no right or wrong. Feelings are feelings, emotions are emotions. And arguing with somebody, or telling them that they shouldn't be sad, or they shouldn't be this, or they shouldn't be that, that's not the way around it. Venus in Cancer, maybe they just need a hug, I know that's so, cliche, the hug, but, they need some comforting. And a little bit of comforting will go a long way. Instead of trying to argue somebody out or be right about it. There's no right or wrong about feelings. There's no right or wrong about feelings. So yeah, even though it's the new moon in Taurus, we barely talked about it, but because there's just so much other stuff going on. Let me see here. I'm having a difficulty. I've got my mouse using the wrong hand on the mouse. Is the actual sun making any aspects? They have an opposing Saturn. I still say that's pretty weak. It's pretty far out orb. But just on a final thought, tensions could be running high. High emotions, too, with the Lilith Chiron, too. That's kind of similar to the square to the Venus and Cancer. There's these... It's... I don't want to say verses, but what I'm saying is it's like emotions versus thoughts. The heart versus the mind, And it's water and air. Water and air they're coming at things from two different angles here. That's all it is. So, or another thing would, if I had to do one sentence for this chart, I would say, keep other people's feelings in mind. Libra, be considerate. I think that would kind of sum it up. Okay, so yeah, oh, one more thing is Palace. Palace just passed through that, it's going to go past that galactic center again, too. It's at 26 degrees of Sag, it's that galactic center point. Pallas is retrograding. Oh, and then Mercury stopped and about to go retrograde, too. So these, again, you could say things that you don't mean. That's another strong point of this chart. But yeah, this Pallas. So Pallas, I always think of as enlightenment and everything. And I always, that galactic center is a point of enlightenment or a point of download or some kind of energy. There's something about that. I was just looking up the other day. I was thinking about really cool creative people, and I looked up a couple people. I can't remember who. I think Steven Spielberg was one of them, and they had planets at that 26 Sag, you know. And I feel that there is just some kind of magical... so when planets, even if you don't have a natal planet at that point, when something aligns with that, especially a planet or asteroid, I think, as like Pallas, then, you know, I think there could be really big enlightenments happening. You know, there could be some really big enlightenments happening, and well, that's how to get out of it, you know, and that's how these emotional dramas go over and over and over again, you know. And it gets sometimes, you know, you mentally it does get to a point. It's just like, geez, are we gonna do this again? Do I have to? Sorry about that phone. I can't turn it off on the other line. Sorry about that. But anyways. It'll only be a couple of rings and we're almost out of here. But, yeah, so being a little more tolerant, or, you know, Venus with Cancer, maybe your mother does have to tell that story one more time. You know, maybe you are going to have to listen to that story one more time about, you know, the story that you've heard a million times since you were a child. And, you know, don't be tolerant. Tolerance is also a very key thing here in this chart. Okay, so I'm sorry about that phone. I'm not editing it out, though. It was right at the tail end, because editing puts another hour or so on my work here. But anyways, I want to thank you all. Check out my channel. I think it's... on mobile devices, it's different. I think it says info or something, but it's like below the video. You can click on it. But if you're on a regular computer watching, then you can just go to my homepage. It has my other channels, Vivi Creator Shorts, bunch of rock music stuff that I've done in the past, keyboard stuff, and then learning songs for kids. My original YouTube channel, bunch of kids songs to learn from. If you go home, videos, playlists, channels, discussions about everything is there. All these links are to everything. If you want to get a reading on Find Out America, I have these awesome prints of the astrological mandalas. My Beast Mistress Oracle cards are out. I have a link to that. And a link to my book, Tarot in the Modern World, on Amazon. And, of course, last but not least, the order page. I'm eventually going to do another... I need to do a new website. But for now, everything's on the back end of the mandalas page. It'll seem as if you're on the... just order the mandalas, but it's all there. You can order a personalized mandala. The Beast Mistress Tarot is there, too. And then if you keep going down, there's the readings section. And the different kind of readings I offer, and then of course finally donation at the very bottom. So if you enjoy these free videos, I always love to get donations, and some of you have been doing the monthly thing, and even if it's only a couple bucks every month, it adds up, and I really appreciate that. Thank you all for watching, liking, sharing, commenting on my videos. Remember that you are love and beauty incarnate, and I'll talk to you soon.